All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on episode 170 of Blowback, Exposing Imperial Decline. I am one of your co-hosts, Billy Bob. I'm in the West Coast, and it is 9 a.m. For me, I've got my other co-host, Ian Kummer, streaming live from a suburb in Moscow, where we're going to have daylight savings time tomorrow. But before daylight saving time hits, I'm going to say it's 7 p.m., and I'm going to be close. Right
Yes,
on the
you're
dot? Okay.
right in the dot. Yes.
Okay, I got it right this time again. Greg Rosen is our special guest. He's streaming live from Chicago, Illinois. It is 11 a.m. there. I see that we don't really have any viewers, and so I don't know what the point is of inviting our viewers to send us or send me a message, and we're going to try something new, and we're going to see if anyone is interested in joining our stream and arguing with us or picking a topic for us to discuss. But so that's the plan. I'll be reminding these invites throughout the discussion. And if anybody would like to participate, just give us a comment and I can send you the studio link and you can jump in if you have a camera and microphone. It's pretty easy. But our first topic was going to be the art of the deal, is what we entitled the program. And so Trump, of course, just returned from his trip to, what do the boomers call it, the Orient?
I think it's a little older than the boomers. I think that's early 20th century.
Okay, fair. But I think Trump probably thinks of it as the Orient. Because he's in his, well, he's pushing 80. But yeah, so he had this great tour of, he was in many different places, making deals left and right. But what everybody was trying to, keep tabs on, of course, was that what was he going to do with China? So China was the big issue, and so that did turn out in a certain way. And I have certain thoughts about that, a certain understanding that I'm going to articulate. But before I launch into that, does anybody want to interrupt me and say something else before I start talking about, my perception of what happened with this China-Russia deal or China-U.S. deal?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
okay. So basically, we saw the build up to this deal. We saw, the United States really doing their best to try to harm China. They're using tariffs, really high tariffs, to try and harm China. And this is the whole point, right? This is the whole point of Trump. This again. I mean, I'm realizing that I'm entering into disputed territory, but I think a lot of people really see that China is the big elephant in the room, which the U.S. really is trying to undercut, curtail, contain, and wreck their economy as best they can. That's really what the United States wants to do, because the United States sees China as a peer rival and as a threat to their amount of global hegemony, whatever. So we've seen these tariff wars, and so Trump launched a tariff war against the entire world, and then he's made peace with the entire world except for China. And part of his discussions with these other countries, of course, is to try and get them to negotiate a deal with the United States. But every country, part of that deal is you gotta curtail your trade with China. And so the United States has been trying to isolate China and coerce every other country to decrease their trade with China. So this is what has been going on. And China, of course, is the number one country of trade for most of the world. Over 100 countries, China is their number one trade partner. And so it hasn't really been effective. Also, the United States is far more dependent on China than China is dependent on the United States. And so the United States has been pursuing this effort to harm China from a real place of weakness. And so, and China has struck back. China has said they had played some of their cards. So when the United States did their best to harm their economy by raising these tariffs and by cutting them off of high tech trade, China responded with some cards that they have, soybean, purchases, and also rare earth. So China owns a monopoly on rare earth. So China played these cards, and it brought the United States to its knees. And the United States realized, oh shit, we don't have these cards to play. And so I think Greg has some actual, he has chat GPT'd all the back and forth of the trade wars, and so he might have some greater insights. I'm doing a real broad overview, but essentially, what happened a day ago in South Korea, I believe was where they were meeting, is a deal to put everything off for another year, right? And so China has agreed to buy soybeans. China has agreed to sell rare earths, and the United States has agreed to allow certain Chinese firms to purchase, the high tech equipment like chips that they were not allowed to do previously. So I do see that we do have a bunch of viewers currently, and I just wanted to remind everyone that this is a program where we are open to having anybody that would like to join the discussion to let me know in the chat, and I can send you a studio link, and you can either come on and disagree with us, or we can talk about something that you would like to talk about. But yeah, I'm inviting people, viewers, to jump on the stream, and if you're interested, I'll send you a studio link. So essentially, what I'm thinking, the bottom line is with this trade agreement is that the United States and China, the United States is not yet ready. They thought they were ready to really go after China. They realized they're not yet ready, and so there's like going to be a reprieve. And there's going to be a reprieve, and in the meantime, the United States is going to try and dream up new strategies that they hope will be effective against China. And in the meantime, it kind of goes back to the status quo where there's normal trade taking place. The rare earths are flowing, the soybeans are being bought, and the chips are going to China. So that's kind of where we're at. But let me, Greg, do you have any significant disagreement with that, or is that basically the gist of it?
Not significant, but I don't think we've gone back to baseline, really.
Okay.
I think part of
there's still tariffs in place, right?
There's still tariffs, and 7 rare earths are restricted from April. So there was a new set of restrictions that were going to go into effect in November that got delayed for a year.
Okay, and that's on China's side, right? So China is going to delay restrictions on their rare earths for a year.
The second set of restrictions, 7 remain restricted. So there has to be licensing, and it's thought that they're not going to be approved for U.S. defense uses.
So we expect the United States to be stockpiling. We expect the United States to be buying rare earths, as fast as they can.
I'd assume they're not going to be able to even under this very much.
Oh, interesting.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think China has figured out to not sell us weapons we want to use against them. Ingredients for weapons we want to use against them.
Okay. No, that's interesting. I mean, I just watched, the analysis from Sean Fu this morning. And so that's basically where all of my information is coming from. So it sounds like you have a disagreement, because he was definitely asserting that, buying was going to resume temporarily. And in the meantime, China was going to be stockpiling chips, and he expected the United States to be stockpiling rare earths. But you're thinking that perhaps they're still not even going to be selling rare earths, which is an understandable,
I
position.
mean, my understanding is 7 of them remain under licensing, which are important to defense. So there's already an impact from April rules, which isn't going anywhere. So the new ones, which was a blanket prohibition on any defense use worldwide and licensing for all of them, that's belayed for a year. But there's
Okay.
still restrictions that are biting and causing problems from April.
Okay.
Samarium, I can't pronounce them, terbium, dysprosium, luteum, scandium,
So these are
yttrium.
still going to be highly controlled rare earths.
Yeah, that U.S. needs. And, I saw an article from April that said 78% of U.S. weapon systems need the 7 that were restricted then, that remain restricted.
Okay. So it's not really the status quo. It's not really back to the status quo, except with soybeans. I think with the soybeans, it sounded like, the purchases are very big. So something like 12 million, whatever unit they measure them, 12 million of those units this year, immediately, and then a promise to do 25 million. And so again, this is unprecedented purchases of soybeans. I believe it's unprecedented that China's never purchased this many before. So that's like a concession. It's like he's really bailing out Trump's MAGA base. He's bailing out United States farmers. And of course, and with the soybeans, it is all it can be withdrawn, right? Like if the United States violates its side of the agreement, those purchases won't go through. And so it's pressure for the United States not to get froggy and dream up another plan to get China and implement it, because if they do, then the soybean farmers are going to be toast, really. But
I don't know. It's because the thing is, he's done this. I don't know how I would characterize Trump's China strategy. I'm not sure anyone understands what his China strategy is. But the way he's used tariffs, it's kind of like, he uses them kind of like as a sanction. It's not, a tariff isn't exactly a sanction, but it's kind of this hard power type thing where I'm going to slap this huge tariff on some major export your country does, unless you make the deal that I want. He's done that to Mexico. He's done that to Canada. He's done that to the European Union. And it's worked. It's actually, it's kind of funny because the anti-Trump media always runs these headlines like, "Oh, it's a failure," but as far as I can tell, it's so far it's worked most of the time. But with China, it's not, and I think that's because there's so much codependency. Like with Europe, there's not really codependency. They're our two biggest trade partners are Canada and Mexico, and it hurts them. It actually hurts them if trade with the USA is greatly reduced due to tariffs. So they, as far as I could tell, they all just kind of capitulated and say, okay, well, they gave Trump what he wanted. He posted about on Truth Social, this great victory, so his base is happy, and so it's a win for Trump. It's not a clear win with China. It doesn't seem like, I haven't looked exactly at the outcome besides what you discussed already with his East Asia visits, but it sounds like it's more of it's less conclusive, because China actually has that codependency. They can't just say, well, we're slapping tariffs on you and there's no negative consequences for the USA, like with the other countries. So it's harder with China.
It's
I don't know if
interesting.
I don't know if the goal is just to hurt China for the sake of hurting China. It's more of putting these countries in their place, right? They put Canada in their place because Canada was talking tough. Like Trudeau and those guys were all talking tough, for a while there. They were even talking about like, well, if the USA invades us or violates our sovereignty, we'll do guerrilla warfare. Like if you remember those posts, they were all over social media. They were very, very silly. Canadians were very upset.
But
about
that
him
was
calling,
responsive.
yeah, they were calling him the
Reactive.
51st
They
state.
were.
I mean, it's just he was messing with them. And I think he baits people, and people tend to take. He knows how to bait. He's kind of a bully. He is a bully, but he knows how to bait people. He figures out what's this person sensitive about. So Canadians are kind of sensitive about being, dependent on the USA.
Conquered.
So he kind of poked them on that in that department, and that got them all riled up. But
well, I did see where Canada has declared that they're going to do a big trade deal with China, and that is definitely a big FU to Trump. I mean, as part of this effort has been, as I stated, has been to coerce countries to decrease their trade with China and to not allow Chinese exports in. Like this has been a big push from the United States and all the countries that they're dealing with these tariffs. Part of the negotiation is, okay, well, you need to stop dealing with China and you need to pay us our vassal payment, since you're a vassal. So China is telling, ostensibly, and again, I don't trust Canada. I don't trust Canada to really do it. I think it's like a threat, right? They're threatening to do a trade deal with China, but again, they're on the same team as Donald Trump, and they're interested also in containing China. But it's a difficult thing to do because China is the world's industrial power.
Well, I mean, it's complicated because on one hand, just someone saying we're going to do a trade deal with China. Well, it's an FU to an extent, but also I don't think the U.S. I don't think these are necessarily in the same industries. Those consumer products and electronics that people tend to import from China aren't industries that the USA really competes in. So it's kind of like, so it is to an extent an FU to the USA because, like you said, Trump wants to get the upper hand on China. So it is kind of an FU to continue trading with them. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt the USA because those aren't industries that the USA was competitive in to begin with. But,
for sure.
But if you remember, about 6 months ago, Europe was saying the same thing as Canada. Like, oh, we're gonna be junior. Yeah. We're gonna make. It was kind of funny. People were actually making fun of them for this. They're like, well, if you keep being mean to us, we're not going to be your junior partners anymore. We'll be China's junior partners. They were all like talking about how China is more dependable and more reliable than Americans, and it's just kind of funny to see all these people from Europe going on and on threatening to switch allegiances to China. But in the end, it was talk. It was all talk. They didn't do it.
Exactly.
Well, and they don't have an organic argument with China. It's out of loyalty to us, I think. Canada and Europe.
It's not at this point sensible for them to switch from the USA to China, especially now that they've severed their energy from Russia, because China is an energy importer, so they can't replace the USA as an energy exporter.
Right, but in the other areas, they've been integrated with China for a while, including their own manufacturing, which I don't think they want to interrupt.
So it's kind of a moot point at this point because all their industries going down the toilet. I don't know how. It's impressive that it's taken this long, but the numbers. I saw some articles about it a few days ago for October, and it wasn't looking good for Germany. There were domestic flights being cut. There were factories cutting, because it's just the energy is so expensive now.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, cutting their own throats, like you were saying, because they're doing the U.S.'s bidding with regards to China. And so the Dutch, the Netherlands, used some obscure law to just seize a Chinese majority-owned company that provided chips for all of the automobiles that are manufactured in Europe, right? And so the U.S. told them that you were going to get sanctioned under our anti-China sanctions if you allow China to continue, creating these chips with this company in your country. And so they just nationalized the country. The government, they nationalized the industry, the company. The government just seized the company, and then of course China then cut that company off from all the necessary equipment that that company relied on to make those chips that came from China, and now it's really decimated the European auto market because they don't have access to those chips, and so they can't make their cars, and so they're just again they're killing themselves because they're being told to by the United States, because this is how the United States thinks they can harm China and hurt the Chinese economy, but it's backfiring. And the United States the West is demonstrating how inept they are and how incapable they are of, doing anything to China's economy. And China has been making themselves impregnable to this kind of economic warfare for decades. Like they understand imperialism. They understand that as they grow and get stronger, that the United States is going to, start doing anything they can think of to undercut them and to contain them. And so China's been preparing for this. And we see the West engaging in futility. It's been a big joke. I mean, Trump's really ramped up this economic war against China, and it's really been a colossal failure, culminating in yesterday, where it almost goes back to the status quo because none of the strategies that the West has dreamt up have been effective. It's only been effective at really hurting Europe, and pretty soon, the United States would have really seen the pain too, with all these farmers going out of business. If Xi wasn't magnanimous and said, okay, why do you guys knock it off and we'll start buying some. So really it's Xi trying to train, educate, and discipline the United States and get them to behave. I mean, that's what happened. They're really trying to just teach the United States how to behave appropriately. And if you get out of line, we're going to discipline you. And so, and again, China can do that because they have the cards to do that. And so we will see. We will see how this plays out over the next year. But, I've got full faith and confidence in China, and I have no confidence in the ability of the United States to, outplay China, especially considering that China has all the cards. So we've kind of beat that dead horse about South Korea. The big Trump trade tour that culminated in South Korea, where did you guys catch his Truth Social statement? I caught it on Telegram, but he just goes through and he talks about how well respected the United States is and how all these other countries just lavished him with with great deals thanks to his his ability to out negotiate everybody. But his key takeaway from it was all these countries just gave us great deals, and it's because we're respected. It's because I'm awesome and we're really good and we're number one, and that's why all these countries are doing this for us. Ian, you have a thought? It looked like you had a thought. Okay.
No.
I
No.
do.
Okay, Greg, please.
Yeah, I mean, we ended, or at least at the moment, tariffs on China remain 47%, which is a nasty tax because we're not, reshoring here. And since this tariff program looks mostly like a shakedown, it's not going to get much reshoring because it all looks like it's up for negotiation, bribes, investment offers, not long-term policy. So, I mean, the prices aren't up yet to this degree, which they're going to be sooner or later, I think, which is going to really be a punishment on us ultimately.
So you're saying that the tariffs placed on China remain high, so they were negotiated to come down 10%, right?
57 to 47.
Okay, so the United States has agreed to lower Chinese on most tariffs on most Chinese goods from 57% to 47%. But the 47% tariffs are going to hit U.S. consumers hard, and that's going to have cause inflation. It's going to cause prices to increase, and you don't think we've seen that yet. You think we're going to see more of that as the weeks and months progress. It's really and so again, yeah, like you're saying, these policies are going to have a negative effect for the working class, and it's the working class that's going to be hit hardest, and they're not going to have the stated effect of reshoring industry, because that, of course, is what Trump asserts that this is all about. We need to bring industry back. China has all the industry, and that's not a good economic place for the United States. And so we need to, reindustrialize, essentially. But there's so many factors that keep that from being possible, at least with most goods. The cost of labor is one of them, and all the red tape, to start a business, and the environmental rules, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I don't see it. Like, where's the investors reshoring? Trump kind of talks about all these billions of dollars that all these countries are promising to invest, right? So he stated something like Japan has promised to invest. Maybe it was Toyota. Toyota promises to invest $400 billion in U.S. Industry, and then Toyota says, "I don't know what Trump's talking about." They didn't ever hear,
right?
They absolutely don't even know what he's talking about. So there is there's an aspect of Trump where he's overselling. Imagine that. Trump's overselling, what's actually going on, and he's underselling just how difficult and how much, all the sacrifice is going to be putting on the working class. And so obviously that's an important thing to keep in mind. And ultimately, I think that's what's going to happen, right? Like, ultimately, the United States is going to realize the only way we can hurt China is if we sacrifice ourselves. And the only way we can really curtail and contain China is to do something. And we're going to just have to bite the bullet too, because there's not going to be a way to hurt China that doesn't also hurt ourselves. And so what the ruling class is saying is we need to just do that, and we need to prepare the working class to accept the sacrifice that'll be necessary to get China. So it's their interest to get China, and it's not in our interest. But as long as they can make sure that it's the working class that feels all the pain, and they can maintain their wealth, power, and privilege, well, that's what they're going to do. And ultimately, I think we're going to see that in the next few years. We're going to see, we're going to see a narrative where the Trump and whoever else, the establishment is going to be explaining to the working class why they need to sacrifice and why it's necessary to sacrifice. And that could come in the form of, we don't know. I think, and I've been saying this for a while, I think something very large is on the horizon. I don't think we've even, began to see the beginning of it, but and it could be, it could be another war with Iran where the Straits of Hormuz get blocked, and then the global energy market crashes. That could be one thing that happens. It's like a grand reset, and things will never be the same again. But it's interesting. I saw, who is that? This one analyst, and it's not Gordon Chang, but he's like Gordon Chang. He's a white guy from Colorado. And he's always just saying, he's talking about China's imminent collapse, and he's talking about China's demographic collapse. He was on Jay somebody's talk show, and I kind of agreed with him, because he was talking about the new normal that is on the horizon, where you have regional powers, and you just have a total end of the system of international commerce and international shipping. Like, all the shipping lanes that we've taken for granted our entire lives, the global shipping lanes will be severed, and we're going to have regional powers, and it'll just be, it's a totally new world. And I kind of agree with his assessment in that regard. Of course, he thinks the United States is going to do fine, and it's going to be everyone else that suffers, and I think that's totally wrong. But does anybody at least know the name of this guy I'm talking about? He's
No,
okay.
and it's a pretty extraordinary claim to make. I mean,
It
I can
is.
see it in the event of something that extreme happens. Your all the express orders are cut off because they're from China or wherever. But I think that would quickly become the least of our worries because that would be such an extreme situation. We're talking like World War III levels. It'd also be, I think, temporary too. You'd either have nuclear war or it would be de-escalated and trade would resume. I don't think the end of global trade is a thing that can
Well,
realistically
okay.
happen.
No, I appreciate that feedback. Now, let me play devil's advocate. I mean, there was a Cold War that lasted many, many decades. And, we didn't really allow, the Soviet Union to do any kind of trading. And I think that's kind of what we have in mind I think that's kind of what is in mind with this future of, just cutting China off from trading with anybody that we can again coerce and bribe to join us in this global struggle and this new normal. But it could be catastrophizing, but I think there's definitely precedent for it. And that's it might not be resolved very quickly, right? You talk about it resolving quickly, and again, it all depends on the catalyst. What kind of thing starts this, and so. Is it China trying to take Taiwan due to Taiwan declaring independence? Does it start off with a war between the Philippines and China? Like there's all kinds of what is that word, casus belli or something for the reason for war. But again, it's kind of premature to be speculating. I mean, I think that this is the kind of thing that is in store for humanity, and I think the U.S. and the West is pushing us that direction. But again, we haven't seen it, and so maybe I could just shut up about it until it actually. And then I'll say I told you so once it starts. Once it's all.
I mean, I think we have the beginning of a pattern that Trump is failing overseas for the most part on every front. So I wouldn't expect any grand plans to take off, given, I mean, he pretty much stood down with China because we're in no position, as you said, and there's no plan to really get in position to sever trade with them. The stuff with Russia has completely dead-ended. He backed down and lost a war with Yemen. The war with Iran lasted one day. So, I mean, I see a lot of fragility on the external front. I mean, I would expect the aggression, if there's going to be any from Trump, to continue inside the U.S. That's where he's getting somewhere.
Okay, so two things. Syria was a bit of a success. Israel is having its
Before
struggle.
he was in.
Yeah, technically that is true. And I mean, he was in for 4 years prior, but yeah, he was ostensibly trying to preempt that from happening because he wanted to pull the U.S. troops out, allegedly. So yeah, no, that's fair. I won't say that that was a Trump initiative. That was a Trump success with Syria, but we do see something happening in Venezuela. We don't know what, but and we don't know if that would be successful or not. And I would hope it wouldn't be successful. And I think it would not.
The word is it's imminent strikes by Trump by the War Department, as they call it now.
Yeah, so if you look at my one of my most recent posts, I'm talking about the Gerald Ford is steaming. It's not steaming, it's nuclear powered. So it's nuclear powering from Croatia. So it left Croatia on the 24th, I believe, and it should take maybe about 10 days to arrive in on the Venezuelan coast. And so that puts us about next week Friday. And so if I was to I don't know. If I had to bet on any day, I would pick next week, Friday, as probably a good day to initiate whatever they're going to initiate. They'll have everything in place. And once that carrier gets there, I don't know if they want that carrier just puddling around for another week or two doing nothing. But who knows? Maybe they're feeling that putting this pressure on Maduro is good, and that Maduro can't, keep his militias mobilized and ready for weeks and weeks and weeks. Who knows what the plan is? But I think next week, Friday, would be an ideal time. Again, right before this, right after the markets close, give them a couple of days to do whatever they're going to do. And then when the markets open up, they won't be, going crazy. So that's, we'll see. But yeah, I probably would not expect anything before next week, Friday, because, that aircraft carrier it kind of represents a lot of, assets. So military assets. So it gives them an ability to do a lot of things that they just can't do until it gets there. And so I would expect, and then once it gets there, I don't know why they would wait around. So next week, Friday, seems,
they did redeploy all the assets near Iran a few weeks ago, and no launch there.
Say that. Okay. Well, so what happened?
A few weeks ago, we saw the redeployments of the fueling, the airplanes refuel, and all the bombers. And
yeah, no, there was definitely chatter about that all over social media, and it looked like, something might be taking place. And yeah, you're right. It ended up not being anything. And so, who knows how we account for that. Now, I realize we have a few viewers, and I wanted to remind viewers that today, we are open to having any of our guests that would like to jump on the stream and argue with us or agree with us or change topics, that we are open because we're informal. We've got some time this morning for me. I guess it's evening for Ian. But if anybody would like to jump on and complain about us or argue with us or agree with us, just send us a comment and I will send you a studio link and you can join us. And if you don't want to, that's fine, because the three of us, we will continue discussing current events. So go ahead, Ian. I mean, I'm assuming. Okay, go ahead.
It's hard to say. I mean, because it sounds like that, Russia sent some shipments to Iran, which word on Telegram is that deterred any thoughts Israel and the USA had of trying to finish what they started a few months ago. But with Venezuela, it's more difficult to say. There were allegations that there were Russian shipments there as well. I think Venezuela would out of the two, Venezuela definitely be the easier target. I mean, what's the population of Venezuela? Is it 5 million, 6 million, 7 million? It's not huge, is it?
I want to say it was
like
30
20.
million. And
30. No. I'm completely off. It's 30 million, isn't it? It's 30 million.
But it went down from a lot of people have left, after the sanctions and everything.
Yeah, it's not 7 million. It's 30 million. It's closer. It's like 28 million, 29 million. I can even look.
Yeah, look, but I think it might be like down to in the low 20s now with all the people leaving due to the economic hardship. But
there was
let
a
us
drop.
know.
So according to Google, it's 20. Of course, Google, God knows, but supposedly it's a little over 28 million right now.
28, okay.
But still, I mean, Iran is a much larger country. It's 90 million people. It's got a very large military-industrial complex. It's got overland routes from Russia and even from other suppliers like China or whoever. It's closer, and there's ports there. But with Venezuela, it's so much easier to interdict anything being sent. It's just it's far away. I think the USA does need to pick a small country to do the Iraq treatment to show that they're still tough, that America is still great, that NATO is still the top military force in the world. So they're going to pick some small country to blow up, and I think that the top candidate for that treatment right now is Venezuela.
Why not pick the country with the the most resource wealth of any other country, probably, if you include natural gas, gold, and oil. So yeah, it would be
now Venezuela, is it a candidate or an actual member of BRICS? I can't remember.
Candidate.
A good question.
It's a candidate, isn't it? It's not.
I heard Brazil blocked it from full membership.
That sounds right. Yeah, I don't think that I haven't heard that they're a member, so I would be surprised to learn if they were a member. So what Greg is saying sounds correct. But it's unfortunate. BRICS isn't a military alliance anyway. It's not like
it's a power play because it's going back to Monroe Doctrine. Because I've said this on the show before. That Biden was like that child that's trying to hold on to everything, but isn't, or like has his hand in the cookie jar trying to get all the cookies and loses all the cookies. And that's what was happening because he was really losing. You could see it in real time. They're really losing their grip on Latin because they were so focused on Ukraine. And then they became, in addition to Ukraine, so focused on Gaza. Then all this stuff was happening in Latin America, and they were just they didn't have any bandwidth left to deal with it. Now you have Trump, who's in power, and they're trying their best to fix the mistakes, right? So they want to say, hey, Latin America's still our backyard. We can't have Russia and China or whoever else in our backyard. We're going to do this big show of strength. I think that's what we're seeing here with Venezuela.
Well, there's called other angle. Donroe Doctrine. Donroe.
Go ahead, Greg. What were you saying?
Right. There's another angle. Some people talk about that this is to give India a replacement source of oil to wean them off of Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. No. There's. Yeah. I agree
don't know
with that.
That's plausible.
There's. Getting your hands on that many resources is super important. And if the United States can control the oil and gas of Venezuela, that'll be. It would be a huge boon for the United States because, like you said, then they could definitely ease Europe's economic issues. They could help India and more easily isolate and make less important, Russia and Russian energy exports. And so it's absolutely something that they would love to do. And but no, I wanted to mention they're calling it the Donroe Doctrine, DONROE, the Donroe Doctrine.
The Donroe Doctrine.
Yeah. Yes.
The MAGA, the Magro Doctrine.
Okay, so you touched on Gaza and you touched on Ukraine. Both we should move to. Which one do we want to go to first? West Asia or Eastern Europe? Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, just following on what you were saying, it seems like Trump has grabbed onto the idea, which seems impossible, of actually removing Russian oil from the market in a way not even Biden did in the last month or two. All this pressure on India, talk of, he bragged that China's going to start buying U.S. oil and gas.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So here's what I heard. I've heard, on the social media is that, and there's some conflicting reports, right? So India apparently has buckled to the threat of sanctions, and they have stopped being overt about buying Russian energy exports. And then same with China. But on the other hand, those same reports are saying that they found ways around the sanctions, and they're doing like ghost transfers in the middle of the ocean where one tanker, hands it off to another tanker. And so business is continuing as usual, but in a way to avoid these legal sanctions. So that's what I'm hearing. And I don't like to hear that because I would like China and I would like India to just give the United States a very visible middle finger. but they're not really doing that. It seems like they're acquiescing to a degree, but then they're just finding workarounds. And so that's kind of what I've heard is happening. Would you guys agree with that? Or have you heard something else?
I've heard, I mean, what I've heard is even less concrete than that. Because the last I heard was last week when Trump made that statement about Modi's government in India, and then they denied that. Like he said, "Oh, they've agreed to abide by the sanctions to not get tariffed," and then the Indian government denied that, said, "No, that's not true." And that was the last news I've heard. I haven't heard anything concrete since then. Same with China. I heard, Trump made some claims about China, but China has not officially stated that either. It's like one parent telling the children, your mother said this, and then the mother says, well, I said no such thing.
So I think it'll clear up. Like usually these things clarify themselves pretty quick. And I mean, you can't really lie about them and the truth will come out. I think it's plausible that there's been a little bit of acquiescence to these really, tough sanctions trying to, decrease Russian energy exports. And I think there's been some acquiescence, but then there's also been some workarounds, and those workarounds will continue. Now, will the escalation then be a real effort to go after this ghost shipping fleet that goes around the sanctions, where they start, using underwater drones and just having accidents all over these energy exporting, ships that are bypassing the sanctions. So, I mean, that is all going to play out, and we'll have a much better idea of what's happening. But so what about, let's just focus then on Russia, on Ukraine. I know on the battlefield, the city of Pokrovsk is, has been for months now in the crosshairs, and by all accounts is a very important city, and it is just about to be encircled, really, right? Like there's going to be a whole bunch of Ukrainians, like 5,000 to 10,000 Ukrainians trapped because Zelensky does not want to, allow them to retreat.
Some confusion about the numbers. So, and like even the Institute of the Study of Warfare, or whatever that group calls themselves, that everybody
Kagan Institute.
Yes. So they were talking about saying, "Oh, it's fake news. There's not that many Ukrainians trapped." What I read this morning and yesterday was saying that the 10,000 figure is an estimate of not just Pokrovsk, but Kupiansk, and that a city adjacent to Pokrovsk as well. So there's like 3 different pockets, and that's the total number of Ukrainian troops that are encircled in those several different pockets. But it's not trivial. I mean, it's not a trivial number. I mean, it's not. I mean, 10,000 people is not any stretch of imagination a trivial number. And the question is, as short on ground troops as Ukraine is now, how many more losses like this can they take, especially with the other problems they have? The fact that it's winter, the fact that they started this pissing contest with targeting energy infrastructure. Remember, like the last couple months, we were being told that the Russian economy was about to collapse because of the refinery pinpricks. They would blow up a single tank of fuel at a refinery and say this. And it was very funny to me how they would, they'd send one drone, blow up one tank of gasoline at, a refinery, which are thousands of acres of land, these huge facilities. They'd blow up one tank of gas, and then they'd put the red X over that. This whole refinery was destroyed. Which is very funny to me. Like especially if you look at, I don't understand how stupid people are, because it's like if you look at like World War II, right? So if you look at like the Romanian oil fields the strategic air bombings on the Romanian oil fields. You had these operations that involved hundreds of bombs just to destroy one refinery. And of course, in the 1940s, the world had a lot fewer refineries. You could destroy a few refineries, and that would be enough to cripple Germany or the Soviet Union, even if you destroyed a few refineries. But of course, there's many more refineries now than there were then. You can't just, it should be common sense that one or two drones can't destroy an entire refinery, or you might delay the production for a couple of hours while they clean up the mess you caused, but you're not going to significantly disrupt. If it was just such a strange strategy, especially since it basically gave Russia the justification for retaliating again and destroying their substations, destroying their power generation for the winter. And the thing is that Russia in one day of strikes, can do more damage to Ukraine than the whole season of Ukrainian attacks on Russia. So it's a strange pissing contest to get into. But they did. So they've got that going for them. And they have the desertion rate. I mean, they have so many problems. It's going to be interesting to see how this winter goes for them. They're in a situation where it's never going to get better. It's just not. This is going to continue getting worse for them.
Yeah.
And it's such an easy way out of just saying these territories that we don't have the troops to hold anyway, just give up those territories. Say we're not going to accept NATO troops, or we'll keep. They don't have. I mean, they've lost so many. It's so strange. Just accept the reality that they can't hold those territories and give them
and so it begs the question. I mean, Ian, that's great analysis. So we really appreciate you're on the ground, that you're putting the lie to the Western narrative, right, about all these X's all over these refineries. That refinery's been taken out. That refinery's been taken out. 2 drones took out that refinery. So no, that's a great point. But your commentary begs the question, because the rational thing for the West to do, for Ukraine to do, would be to negotiate a deal, which makes us wonder, what are they hoping is going to happen? What is their plan, that is keeping them from doing that now? Like, do they think that in a few weeks or months or whatever, something is going to happen that'll allow them to change the dynamic? So, I mean, is Europe, are they going to be able to hold out enough where Europe can create a fighting force that they can introduce into Ukraine? And is that the plan? Is Zelensky being asked, just hold out 6 months? Within 6 months, we will have an invasion force we can insert stealthily into Western Ukraine, and the Russians won't be able to do anything about it. Like, is this what's going on? Now, I know that the son of Dostoevsky, the author, he just had a great interview. I think.
I don't think any Dostoevsky's sons are alive, because he was alive in the 19th century.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I definitely have my Russian authors wrong. But he was the son of a great Russian author. I think direct son. I don't think he was like a grandson. So I think he was an actual son. But anyway, he was interviewed by a French journalist, back like a year ago or so, and it was a great interview. And he just told, if France puts troops into Ukraine, we will kill those French troops. And like the way he said it was just really great. Like, it was a very powerful statement. Like, France, don't fuck around. You put troops in Ukraine, Russia will destroy those troops, period. So that hasn't changed, right? Like that hasn't changed. So if Europe thinks they can do that, that's just a huge escalation, and it's not anything that's going to save Ukraine, but it is going to, maybe make the Europeans a belligerent. Maybe the Polish will be a belligerent. So is that the plan? Once they fight Russia to the last Ukrainian, do they want to then move to fighting Russia down to the last Polish person?
Plan A is still ceasefire, rebuild Ukraine, right? Try again.
Okay.
Plan B is keep it going until Europe is ready, which is supposedly now 2029, when Germany says they'll be ready.
Okay, well, this
Well, the
brings
problem
us.
with
Go
I
ahead,
think
go
the
ahead.
problem with Poland, I think. I mean, it's hard to read Poland. I don't understand Poles. I can sort of I can look at Polish websites, and I can sort of, which is very funny because it's a Slavic language. I can usually sort of read the headline, right, and then I have to use auto translate for the rest of it because Polish and Russian unfortunately aren't mutually intelligible. But I don't get polls. I think it's a grift. I think it's internally politically useful for Polish politicians to say we're making a stand against the Bolsheviks, against Russia, against the Russian Empire. So the neo Soviet Union. It's as far as national identity goes, it's useful for Poland to portray themselves as this. We're both anti-liberal and also anti-Russian. We're not woke, right? We don't do the whole gay thing. We don't do the whole transgender thing. They like you can if you go into Western right wing spaces, you see they generally have very positive attitudes towards Poles, and it's because we're anti-immigration, we're anti-LGBT. But at the same time, they're also they have the traditional Cold War. We're anti Russia, so they have this very delicate marketing strategy. But I don't think that translates to actual war because the problem with the war is that it destroys your country, like Ukraine has been destroyed. I don't think because Poland's come a long way. They've really gamed the system very well. I think out of all of the second world countries that joined the European bloc, most of them had kind of they were exploited. They had a lot of outward migration. They deindustrialized, so it was good for those people who went to Germany or France or the UK and got jobs there that paid more. But for the countries themselves, it was kind of a bad deal. But Poland, had some population decline, but wasn't as extreme like in the Baltics. And they got a lot of investment. They got a huge amount of European investment in their economy. What's the sense in getting all that money and building up? Because Poland is, I'm sure Poland. I've never been to Poland, but just looking at photos and stuff, it's a lot nicer than it was in the 1990s. They've got all this money. They made nice streets. And what's the point of getting it all destroyed in the war? Go ahead.
Well, Jeffrey Sachs tells a story about how he was on the ground when the Soviet Union decided to dissolve itself, and he says that he was instrumental in giving Poland this huge support, huge economic and financial support, and then he was lobbying that the same package, the same huge tremendous amount of financial support be also extended to Russia. And that's where he says he was surprised when they told him no. And he was opposed to that. So the idea was, make Poland the showcase, invest heavily, and then really fuck Russia, really bad. And so he was opposed to that ostensibly. This is his story. But by all accounts, Poland was a huge, extravagant recipient of Western largesse in the form of European investment and also just straight up U.S. loans and things like that. So that explains why Poland. Say that again, Greg.
Going back to solidarity, they were our darling, and like Russia, like Poland, an anti-Russia weapon. Well, Ukraine. Poland was a anti-Russia weapon by the U.S.
It's easy. It's also easier. So as far as giving more money to Poland than to Russia, like I think even at its worst, even in the Yeltsin period, there were extreme cultural difference because Polish is Catholic. Polish it was part of the Latin. It was part of the Roman tradition as opposed to the Byzantine tradition. The Baltic states are not Slavic. They have many Slavic people in them because of Russian immigration, but they're more, I guess, both ethnically and language-wise are more German. So it's like those are countries that you want. They lean more westward, and they culturally lean more westward, anyways. To the Swedes, to the Swedish Empire, towards the Germans. They, in World War I and World War, they lean that way, anyways. So it's easier to get them on your side. It's just because they're more inclined to that side. Than with Russia's more complex. It's also Russia's more of a because it's more of a global hegemony. So you got Russia weak. Because there was that choice just during the Clinton administration. Can we make Russia a partner, or can we finish Russia, actually balkanize Russia? And I think they went more for the latter, just because the reality is that, for a brief period, you could make Russia a junior partner, for a period of time. But eventually they're going to be tired of it. It's not a country you can indefinitely keep as a junior partner. Then you're going to have problems. So the balkanization.
They wanted them for prey.
Right. So that's the key difference between Poland. I know, because Poland acts like they could, it's not new for Poles. They're kind of like that, but they act like they could defeat Russia by themselves. They have this whole. It's like I said, it's a very delicate marketing campaign. But Poland and Russia are not equivalent countries. They're not. I'm sorry.
Right.
And no, like you said, Poland and Ukraine, after World War II, there was a lot of Poles and Ukrainians that the West absorbed and nurtured, throughout the Cold War, and really, had them go back once the Cold War was over, to try and not take over the government per se, but to steer the country, to be pro-Western. But for instance, so Poland was the Catholic Church. You mentioned the Catholic Church in Poland. The Catholic Church was the greatest landowner in Poland before World War II. And then, of course, when a communist government came to power, all of the Catholic lands were expropriated. But then with the dismantlement of the Soviet Union, the Catholic Church got all of its lands back. And so it is once again the greatest landowner in Poland is the Catholic Church.
It's kind of
yeah.
Same thing in Russia, because a lot of the
I was gonna elaborate on the ideal. Okay, Ian, you cut off. That's all right.
There.
What were you saying?
If you guys can hear me.
We can hear you now.
I'm sorry, I cut out for a minute there. Yeah, okay, good. I was going to say similar thing happened in Russia during the Communist Revolution. They seized a lot of the church property. They say seized not all of it, but a lot of the church property. And then after the Soviet period ended, the church petitioned to get those properties back, which a lot of them they did. Some of them actually declined. Like some of the state, actually, some of the churches are still state owned, is because they were historically significant. I think is the main argument. And the state actually spends money to keep those buildings in good condition, while the church isn't always let's just say not always as diligent as the government to keep those buildings in good maintenance, let's say. But yes, something similar. And I don't know, it's hard to read Poland. I don't want to make really any bold statements about Poland. I don't know, but I feel like no one's really excited. Because the reality is, if they wanted to go fight Russians right now, they could go do it right now. There's nothing. They could buy a train ticket.
Well,
they could buy a train ticket.
there's probably been tens of thousands
they
of
haven't.
deaths.
Well, thousands. I mean, out of millions. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people. They're not even in the top three. Because Lost Armor, the Lost Armor website has a page for foreign fighters. They call them mercenaries, for foreign fighters in the Ukrainian armed forces. And the top, I don't remember, I think the third is actually the United States. So the top three, just as memory, is Colombia, Georgia, and the country, not the state, the United States, of course, and the USA. So, I mean, where are all these polls? I mean, there's.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying the U.S. sends more mercenaries than Poland?
Well, there's more casualties.
Huh.
Because when a mercenary dies, they usually find a news article confirming that person was killed. So the Lost Armor is a website that's tracked. In fact, let me double check that right now. Well,
yeah, no, that's interesting. That's counterintuitive. I would have assumed, yeah, it makes sense. I know Colombia, big contributor. I mean, they're making a lot of money, right? So Colombian mercenaries aren't used to making that kind of money. So it's a real big enticement for Colombian mercenaries. And there's a lot of mercenaries in Colombia. So that just does kind of make sense that they were number one. Georgia's number two. I would have just assumed Poland would have come way before the United States.
So I just looked right now. In fact, I think, let me share the hold on, let me share the share screen. Okay, hold on. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Am I sharing? Okay, yes. So you can see. Actually, no, and that has changed. Actually, the USA is now number 2. Colombia is number 1. And this, by the way, these are not the numbers of mercenaries. These are just the known killed in action.
Confirmed.
But I think it gives you right, but it gives you an idea of how
what
many.
What kind of numbers are those?
They're not. None of them are huge numbers. So the total number of foreign fighters Ukraine has are under 10,000 total. So it's not. It's not a huge number. I wouldn't say it's a trivial number, but for an army that has 600, 700,000 people at any given moment, it's not a huge number. So
yeah.
Colombia has a total killed. According to Lost Armor, this is just the deaths they've been able to confirm through, news media. 381. USA is second place with 95.
Damn.
And Georgia is third place with 87. And it looks like fourth place is actually Belarus for 52. And Britain for 43, Russia for 37, and then Brazil 35, and France 25. And it goes down the list from there. So,
yeah, no, that's interesting. Poland, nowhere to be found, which is surprising.
Now, Poland is 20.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because there were stories from like a year or so ago. I'm going to stop sharing the screen because it's not necessary anymore. But they're like, they've lost. There was clickbait articles, like I think even Polish news sites, because it's capitalism, baby. Clickbait gets gets clicks. So there's sort of these stories like 10,000 Polish people have been killed in Ukraine. There's some stories like that, but as far as I can tell, they were not true. The majority are just people from Latin America who want that paycheck, because an average soldier in Ukraine can make $3,000 a month, which is 10 times or even 15 or 20 times higher than what a person from Colombia or Brazil is able to. Because from what don't quote me on this, but the average wages in those countries tend to be around $200 or $300 in American dollars a month. And especially if you're, these guys who become soldiers, they don't tend to be rocket scientists or like scholars with PhDs either. They tend to be working class guys who have military experience, but there's nothing for them to do. If you want to make $100 a month as a bricklayer, or you want to go to Ukraine and be a mercenary, make $3,000.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure if you did a 12-month or 24-month tour in Ukraine and actually got paid, and didn't die, you could do a lot with that money. You could go back home to Colombia. You could probably, I don't know what the Colombian economy is like. I'm sure you could buy a house. You could maybe buy a vehicle. You could really, it'd be a life-changing opportunity for you. So I understand why they do that. But in Georgians, like that comment said, Christine's comment, I don't know about Georgia. I feel like Georgian mercenaries who go to Ukraine are more ideologically motivated than people from Latin America. Because they're more nationalist type guys who are anti-Russian type guys. So I do think the Georgian element is more ideologically motivated as opposed to financially motivated.
Yeah, I don't think people in Colombia are motivated by anti-Russian sentiment, but it's possible to have a real strong anti-Russian sentiment in Poland, in Georgia. And again, this gets back to the harboring and nurturing of the Nazi ideology, anti-communism, all throughout the Cold War, by the West. And so, anti-communism was like the religion that the West, the United States, exported around the world. And it was successful. Like, there's a lot of adherence to the anti-communist religion. And so if there's a new crusade starting, hey, let's get on with, let's join the crusade. Because now, anti-Russianism replaces anti-communism. But so we're thinking that a holding pattern until the EU has some kind of a fighting force that they can just introduce, and there's nothing Russia can do about it, or who knows what they're hoping will happen. But it doesn't seem plausible, and it doesn't seem likely that Ukraine can really withstand too much more. We're going to see how this winter goes. Like Ian was saying, it's supposed to be a really severe winter, and a lot of the energy capacity has already been, destroyed or reduced tremendously in Ukraine. And so, it's not looking good for the West, for the Ukraine. It looks like a big loss. It looks like a big debacle that's cost 1 million lives of Ukrainian lives. And, I recently had a post just condemning and lamenting all those people who think they're supporting Ukraine. And they have the little yellow and blue flag in their profile. And they think that by, supporting this war against Russia, that they're helping Ukraine. But the West never gave a fuck about Ukraine. None of this is going on because the West cares about Ukrainians. This is all going on because the West wants to use Ukraine. They want to use the last Ukrainian in a war against Russia to destabilize Russia, to regime change Russia, and to balkanize Russia. That's what this has always been about. And Ukraine signed up. Ukraine volunteered, and they're fucking stupid to do it. And all the Western cocksuckers, not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way, all the Western jerks who support Ukraine in their futile and useless efforts to repress ethnic Russians and to take back this land militarily. Their advocacy has contributed to the status quo of 1 million dead Ukrainians and a lost war, and maybe the whole nation of Ukraine is going to be, forever gone. It's possible, right? Ukraine might cease to exist. And anybody that really cares about Ukrainians would have, from the very beginning, number one, not wanted a coup to happen and that coup government to come to power as a virulently anti-Russian, pro-NATO government. That's not pro-Ukrainian. That is anti-Ukrainian, right? So pro-Ukrainian is going to mean good relations with fucking Russia, your huge neighbor next door. That is what pro-Ukrainian means, you stupid motherfuckers. Sorry, I'm getting angry. But I mean, it's obvious. No, Ukraine was never going to win a war against Russia. It wasn't ever going to happen. Russia wasn't ever going to let it happen. And so, Russia sacrificed 30 million people in World War II to keep the West out of Ukraine. You don't understand. Like, you don't get it. So, pro-Ukrainian, the pro-Ukrainian position is by definition a pro-Russia, pro-good relations with Russia. That is the only pro-Ukrainian position that you can have. And you're anti-Ukraine with your yellow and blue flag. You're fucking anti-Ukraine. All right, I'm done ranting. Maybe no, probably not.
Yeah. So I think what our faithful viewer Skoidat said, anti-communism and anti-Russian sentiment are two distinct things. I think that's true because with Europe, and I think that's a good point, because with Europe during the Cold War, they went along with the anti-communism narrative, even though they're kind of leftists themselves, right? Because you have those Scandinavian socialist governments,
Social Democrats.
Every European country is more socialist than the USA, every single one of them. But they still went along with the anti-communist narrative in the Cold War. But I think that was marketing. They were anti-Russian. Regardless of what they called it at the time. I think that's demonstrated by the fact that Russia is not communist. Russia is capitalist, but they still hate Russia just as much as they did in 1985 or 1945, 1925. The hatred's been the same.
I don't think it has anything to do with.
No, so that's anti-Russian. But let me finish. The USA was never, anti-Russian, right? Because what do we have to do with Russia? Nothing. So, but American conservatives got sold on anti-communism, and I think that's actually been a problem for the anti-Russian crusades. That the right-wing anti-communist element has never quite gotten on board. There's always been pushback since the war started, right? There's like, why, they'll say the obvious, it's because it's obvious. Russia is not anti-communist. Russia is not communist. Russia is capitalist. Why? What was the point of this? They never got the right on board with the new anti-Russia crusade because it was anti-communism. It was like, when Russia was communist, okay, you get the anti-communists, the American anti-communists on board with that. But now it has nothing to do with communism. It's because Russia is bad, Russians are bad. And they never got those right-wing guys on board with it. They got the left liberal people on board because, I'll be honest, it's easier to get those people excited about ethnic conflicts than it is with conservatives. It just is.
Have you guys ever seen polling on what % of Americans think Russia is still communist?
I haven't, but I'm guessing it's like a third.
Is former KGB,
So what's the number? I'm guessing it's like
no, I haven't seen it either. I'm curious, but I'm guessing it's pretty high also. Which
that's the low information.
What, Ian?
I was going to say, it's the low, like Billy Bob says, low information is people who don't know where Russia is on the map.
Yeah.
Also.
So I mean, there's definitely a distinction. I mean, anti-communism is not anti-Russianism, but I don't think anybody's anti-Russia, right? I think the problem with Russia is that they're sovereign. So the West can't handle anti-sovereign countries, and communist countries are by definition sovereign. They're not going to be dictated to. They're not going to be co-opted by oligarchs, especially Western oligarchs. So, and then that's the same thing with Russia. Like Russia was demanding their sovereignty. It's the government was not going to be run by the oligarchs. And, that's what Putin said when, he says, I'm going to get these oligarchs under control that were created by the perestroika, by the, the dismantling of the Soviet Union. All these oligarchs bought up these industries, pennies on the dollar, and now they're running amok. And I'm gonna set things in order. I'm gonna renationalize the oil and natural gas. I'm going to put the oligarchs in their place. If they don't want to be in Russia, if they don't want to let the Russian government, dictate policy, they can fucking leave. If they want to stay and be business people, fine, they can stay. So, but the government of Russia is the sovereign entity, and they're not going to be co-opted. And that's really what the West doesn't want to, have continue, right? The West wants to dominate the Russian government. They want to control Russian resources, and they want to balkanize Russia to make it easier to exploit. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so it is a difference between, anti-communism and anti-Russia, but it's the basics, the fundamentals are the same. It's because it's a sovereign country that refuses to, be exploited and be dominated by Western imperialism. So, okay, there's a lot of commentary that I am missing because I am diatribing. Ian is
monologuing. You are monologuing. So there is comments from MK here. Pentagon is allowing. It's not approved yet. It's in the White House. The Pentagon just said they're allowed. They allow.
They've sent them.
Yes, and I actually found. I'm going to share screen again now that I know how to do it. I never actually shared the screen before. So until to this show, so I'm going to do it now. So if you can see this, as I after I saw that comment, I actually looked it up. This happened during the show, by the way. This is a CNN article from 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
The Pentagon cleared giving Ukraine long-range Tomahawk missiles. Leaves the final decision to Trump. So it's not.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm glad we can have breaking news.
Yes, it's breaking news.
But I mean, I don't think this has changed, right? Like this has been, Trump ostensibly, for the past several weeks, Trump has been the sole person to either say yes or no. Like Trump could have said yes or no at any time in the past several weeks. We thought he did say yes at one point, and then it turns out he didn't. But we don't really know. But it's interesting. Now, okay.
So we have a question from the comments. So someone, it's our Skoyback guy. He said, "Are we talking about Russian oligarchs or Ukrainian oligarchs? Putin's government is a joint partnership with Russian oligarchs." So
is that your take? Would you agree with that, Ian? And I was going to tell Mr. Skoydat, I don't like his name.
So it's complicated.
He said he wanted to join us. If he would have known, he would have skipped work to jump on. So, hey, I encourage you. Let me know when is good for you, and we can definitely have you on if you want to disagree with us. But it's easier when you're here, and we don't just have to respond to your comments. But we will respond to your comments. But you're more than welcome to join us anytime you're available. Okay, Ian, go ahead.
So, because Putin is Yeltsin's man. Right. It wasn't a 1917 revolution. Because Yeltsin did resign after the second Russian financial crisis. He did just resign in December. And Putin was I forget the term for it, but interim president. He was the temporary president until they could have a formal election. Then Putin was formally elected. It was the actual permanent, but so it's complicated. So he was seen because Clinton spent billions of dollars on the Yeltsin administration, and Putin was a Yeltsin person. And then that changed. I don't think that was that Western perception of him. I mean, it gradually changed, but he wasn't seen as. I don't think he was seen as anti-Western until the Obama administration. There was even that. There was even that. There was even that debate, if you remember, that Mitt Romney-Obama debate, where Obama famously said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said the Cold
want
War.
Their foreign policy back.
Yes. And then which was very funny because Obama became the first anti-Russian president. So it's very funny that he said that.
The narrative I've heard about how Putin came to power was that they were embarrassed and disgusted by the drunk Yeltsin. And so Putin and some nationalists got together and said, you're going to leave office, you're going to resign, you're going to put me as the interim, or you're going to die. I mean, they threatened him. But that might not be true at all. That's kind of the narrative that I embrace and that I like the sound of and that I think is true, but it might not be.
It was a soft coup because Russia had two financial collapses in the same decade. I mean, it's pretty harsh because they were actually, because if you look at like life expectancies or just the economy, and things were getting better 1996 and 1997. And then because Yeltsin had taken those loans, by the way, these were not foreign loans. These were these were domestic loans from oligarchs. These weren't like, this wasn't a foreign creditor coming down Russia's throat. These were Russian creditors in Russia that caused that second financial crisis. And then Yeltsin resigned. So I mean, I think that's probably true. But also, he was having heart surgery. Yeltsin was having all kinds of personal health problems, also. And the thing is, but Yeltsin was not prosecuted. He could have been, but Putin did not prosecute. He didn't go after Yeltsin's daughter. He didn't go after any of Yeltsin's people. Putin is Yeltsin's guy. I think if privately you asked Putin himself, he wouldn't say he's like Yeltsin's enemy or anything like that. I think, but he did have to crack down on the corruption. So, like, if you look at the I forget what they're called. Like, there are the seven bankers. There are these seven particularly infamous bankers that held a huge amount of power in the 1990s. 5 or 6 out of the 7 actually served jail time. Most of them left the country afterwards. So Putin did crack down on them. He did nationalize a lot of industry. He nationalized a lot of agricultural industry. He did. So, I mean, because I think it's important to address, because really, it's important to address because a lot of these Western type people say, oh, well, Russia's controlled by oligarchs. Yeah. Russia's this, Russia's corrupt, Russia's this, Russia's that. But
Putin's entire presidency has been successfully taking power from the oligarchs and returning it back into the legitimate government. And so we have seen how quality of life metrics have really increased over the 20 years, 25 years of Putin. Like, I mean, there's graphics that show the tremendous increase in quality of life for Russian people under 25 years of Putin. So, and again, he ran on a platform before he was elected officially. He ran on a platform of getting the oligarchs under control, ending the corruption, and nationalizing the oil and natural gas sector, which is what he did. And you can't call these like capitalist policies. Like these are authoritarian socialist policies. If anything, I mean, you're nationalizing industries. So Westerners that assert Russia is just an oligarchy is they're misinformed, of course, but it's not true. So no, we appreciate Ian you elaborating on that. And yeah, I mean I'm not an expert on the troubling times. I didn't even realize there was 2 successive collapses, and then that in the middle of them things were improving a little bit. That's interesting to learn. Now we can also, I don't know if we've beat the dead horse of Russia and Ukraine, and we can move on to Israel, Iran, and
We
Gaza.
should, because you did say we were going to move on to Gaza, so we should hit Gaza before we close, I think.
Okay. Well, what was the most recent thing was the ceasefire agreement. I don't think we've had a show. I don't think we've been broadcasting since the ceasefire agreement. Which was was it last week, Friday? I forget.
2+ weeks in.
A couple weeks in. Okay. We might have had a show. Oh yeah, we might. I think we just didn't talk about it last Friday's episode. But so the big news was, hey, Trump, peace again. I mean, the peacemaker. One more time, he's ended all these wars, and now he's finally ended the Gaza-Israel war. I don't know how you'd call that, genocide a war, but Trump definitely does. And he took all the credit. He went to Egypt. He went to Israel and declared peace in our time. And then was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? I think after the peace deal has been in process, and after all of the hostages have been returned and exchanged, I guess Israel, on a real flimsy pretext, maybe even a false flag, just engaged in some really indiscriminate bombing of Gaza, killing 100 people, and almost 50 children died from an extended family. So just some horrific
Because they claim
crimes.
Hamas reburied and dug up a body. They killed 100 people. That was the pretext.
I thought it was something about a shooting, like they were shot at, and one Israeli person actually died, but it was in an area that Hamas wasn't even active.
I think there's been a few rounds like this.
Yes. So I mean, there's been a ceasefire. Israel has not abided by it, and they have continued indiscriminately with impunity. Just continuing the genocide, really, and killing innocent people for no reason at all. Just because that's how they operate. That's how genociders operate. But I mean, that's kind of where we're at with the Middle East, with Gaza. I mean, it's ostensibly a ceasefire. Israel continues to violate it with impunity. I'm not sure how much longer Hamas will put up with that. You've got Lebanon. You have Hezbollah is rearming and regrouping. You have the West trying to get the government to outlaw and to destroy Hezbollah. But that is not going to happen because Hezbollah is the strongest force in Lebanon, and the government is weak and nobody really likes them. But you see that continues to go on. Iran seems like, all the reports is they're developing, they're restocking their missile supplies. They're ready for another round with Israel, and Israel, it seems like they know better than to, initiate any kind of another war with Iran, because Iran has demonstrated its capabilities in the last 12-day war, and they're only getting stronger. So what else did we miss? I mean, that's the basic outline of where we're at with Israel, Palestine, Iran. You guys want to add anything? Skoidat wants to force us back into Russia, Ukraine.
That's true.
What the hell is this? Look, what was Ian's dog's name? Polymorphed.
Spaz. And this is Pusha.
Spaz polymorphed into a cat.
No, this is Pusha. Actually, this cat last month. Cat. He's a big boy. I lost him for 3 weeks last month. Actually, he ran away. He escaped. It took me 3 weeks to find him, but now he's back.
Wow, I've lost pets before. That's really an emotional roller coaster. So you must be very happy after 3 weeks.
Yes, he came back, and I was able to get him back up after 3 weeks.
I've never seen him though. How long have you had him?
Oh no, he's Maria's cat. He's been here the whole time.
Okay.
He didn't used to hang out with me.
Did he have a relationship with Spaz, or did they kind of?
Well, they got used to each other eventually.
Okay.
The last few months, he started spending more time with me, so that's why you see him tonight. I think this is the first time he's been on the show.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like he could take Spaz if he had to.
He's a big guy. He's a very big cat. He's a big cat. I think he's 5 kilograms of cat.
Okay, so we have a debate in our comment section, and so I don't know if you guys didn't seem like you had anything that you wanted to really interject, but I'll give you a moment. But there's also this debate between Skoidat saying getting the oligarchs under control is not a socialist policy. In any other country, we would call that fascism. Whereas Pittsburgh Dude 87, oligarchs getting the government under control is fascism, not the other way around. And so I would definitely defer to Pittsburgh Dude as being correct. But you guys are more than welcome to come on air and discuss it with us. But probably not anymore, because I've been offering that the entire show. If you guys want, we can send you the studio link. At this point, though, I think we're getting close to wrapping up. But if, again, any viewers that want to participate and are feeling moved to tell us we're right, tell us we're wrong, or have us focus on a particular topic, just let us know and we can send you a studio link. So I know, Greg, you're going to agree with me that Pittsburgh Dude is correct.
I mean, neither's exactly right?
Okay. Fair.
Oligarchs having control is what we have, and ordinary capitalism is not automatically fascism.
Yeah, no, it's nuanced, and so I mean, I get what Pittsburgh Dude is saying. I think Pittsburgh Dude is more correct than Skoidat, but yeah, I mean, there's nuance and there's
right. Controlling oligarchs doesn't automatically mean fascism either.
And controlling the oligarchs doesn't necessarily mean that you're on the socialist or communist path. So
right.
So that is definitely true. But okay, did you guys have anything? I mean, I did a summary of the Middle East off the top of my head, but did you guys want to focus on any particular thing or add anything to that?
Well, the animals are attacking me, so
your cat seems pretty friendly. He seems really
the
really
dog
friendly.
is actually, you can't see him on the camera, but the dog wants my attention as well. Okay, so
all right, well, we did good. We had an hour and 40 minutes of discussion. So yeah, we'll reconvene and then we'll meet up next week. So thank you, Greg. Thank you, Ian. And thank you, viewers. We will see you then.